Good afternoon. So we're going to get started with our next breakout session. This is called How to Partner with Schools. I'm really excited for you all to learn about a really innovative model about how to bring youth soccer to high poverty schools throughout Maryland. My name is John Solomon, Community Impact Director for Project Play. As you'll hear today from our speakers, if there's one takeaway I really hope that you come away with, it's that anyone can adopt this idea. The model is available for clubs, it's available for nonprofits, foundations, and others to take actions. And the leaders of Let's Play also want to give you the tools to do this. I wrote about this idea a little bit on our Project Play website a couple months ago. We have the article up here on the table if anyone wants to take them as you leave to help remember some of the discussion. First, let me share a little bit of a background about Let's Play. For 45 years, the Maryland State Youth Soccer Association, also known as MSYSA, followed the path of many state soccer governing bodies by catering programming to wealthier families that can afford paying thousands of dollars a year in fees and travel costs. It's a model that we know disproportionately excludes many black and brown children, especially as kids move from town-based rec programs to private clubs around age 11 or earlier. So recognizing the need for an alternative, MSYSA created Let's Play in fall 2021 to bring after-school soccer programming to Title I or high-poverty elementary schools. It's made possible with the help of innovative partnerships, funding from government that aims to improve the mental health and educational achievement of students, and incentives to recruit coaches from the community. So in 2021, Let's Play had 4 schools serving 175 children in soccer. This spring, there are 21 schools serving 970 children, and there are plans to add at least another 2 or 3 schools in the fall. Montgomery County, which is a very diverse county here in Maryland, accounts for more than half of the Let's Play children, and Baltimore City and Baltimore County are other communities that have a presence. Let's Play is not designed to promote emerging soccer talent and get kids into competitive leagues. Rather, by focusing on youth development rather than sports for the sake of sports, Let's Play has been able to access government funding through the rise of community schools. And here today to discuss this are 2 leaders of this initiative. First, Nathean Meadows is the MSYSA Director of Outreach and Grassroots for Let's Play. He has over 35 years of experience as a soccer coach and coach educator, having served as a youth mentor and sports leader in the UK, as well as executive director for one of the largest faith-based summer day camps in the US. He masterminded Let's Play and now works with school principals, community school coordinators, and local and national partners to break down barriers for access to sports. And Amy Beal is the Montgomery County Public Schools Coordinator for the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. Amy holds a master's degree in education and human services and leverages her expertise to champion educational initiatives in Maryland for over 12 years. Throughout her career, she's been dedicated to forging meaningful partnerships within the community to address the diverse needs of children and families. Appreciate you both being here. How we're going to structure this today is Nathean and Amy are going to present some slides for about 20-25 minutes or so and explain what Let's Play is and the community schools model. Then we're going to have some discussions a little bit that I'll be moderating, and then we want to open it up to you as well for some audience Q&A. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Nathean and Amy.
All right, well, thank you very much for that introduction, John. Greatly appreciate it. And so glad to see so many people in the room today. We are thrilled with what has been created and the partnerships that we've been able to create, and our number one mission in life, outside of having an impact in the communities that we serve, is trying to help other people have an impact in their communities too. So everything that we do, we hope to use as a model that other people can use to bring change to their communities as well, wherever they may find themselves. So a little bit about MSYSA, just very briefly, and we'll try to go through these slides as quickly as possible as the information is relatively self-explanatory. But MSYSA serves as one of 54 state associations in the United States as the highest administrative authority for the sport of youth soccer in Maryland and DC. We have over 200 clubs and leagues that are affiliated with us, serving, and some of these numbers are maybe slightly outdated now, it's actually more like 78,000 registered players through those clubs and leagues. Many thousands of coaches, educators, volunteers, et cetera, et cetera. And our mission ultimately is to grow the game and to transform lives. And we do that through many ways that you can see on the screen. I won't go through all of them. And now, Amy.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Amy. So I currently work in Montgomery County Public Schools, as John mentioned. It's a very diverse area. We have about 34 community schools. I say about because we're about to expand in July for community schools. But you can see our demographics here. And we've been working with Nathean for the past 2.5 years.
So why did we create this program? Ultimately, I think John briefly touched on it. Our mandate typically was to serve travel, competitive, and the elite soccer space. And we recognized coming out of COVID that the travel, competitive soccer world jumped quickly back to their feet. The recreational and grassroots side of the soccer world was decimated and hit very heavy. But even outside of that, it also helped to shine a bright light for us anyway on another whole entire section of the community that had so many barriers to access. They weren't part of the recreational grassroots, they weren't part of travel or competitive elite, they just weren't part of anything. And so we knew that we had the power to try to do something to change that. And so COVID brought up all kinds of issues, right? And we're preaching to the choir here. You're familiar with the impacts that COVID has had on our community and on our youth. And so we wanted to provide a program that was going to ultimately reduce as many of the known barriers that exist to children participating in sports, and obviously for us, soccer specifically, right? Whether they be travel barriers, whether they be resource barriers, finance barriers, whether they be a lack of adult support barriers, lack of programming options, lack of green space options, all those kinds of things. So we set out to start this program, right? And we knew that schools was going to be that kind of golden place where we could reach as many children as possible with the beautiful game, is what we refer to it. If you're not soccer people, the beautiful game is what we refer to it. You probably refer to your sport, if it's different than soccer, as a beautiful game too, but ours is the beautiful game, so what can I say? And so what did we create? We created a free program for the kids. Somebody has to pay for it, right? But it's free for the kids. It's co-ed. It's designed to work in that after-school time period, as we all recognize that that time period after school is one of the most difficult times and challenging times for students, particularly students that live in traditionally underserved, under-resourced, low-income communities. We focus specifically on Title I and community schools so that we could improve the chances of us having success of meeting the target market of children that we wanted to hit, which was those that had too many barriers to participate in other sports and other opportunities. The program typically runs in those what might be considered traditional soccer periods, which is the fall season, kind of 8 weeks before daylight savings time, because we want this to be an outdoor program. We do have the flexibility to go inside when we have weather days like this, but it is designed to be an outdoor program so that we can get kids outside. And then again in the spring. We are also now for the first time doing summer programming with a few schools in Montgomery County for this summer. You can move on. The essence of our program is that it is a relational model. It is not just about soccer. In fact, as we go through briefly, you'll see here that it's so much more than just soccer. It's a relational model where we want to engage the students with coach mentors to help them, right? And to be a part of their community and to help them grow and mature as young people. So our program is based on 3 pillars. Soccer, of course, we're the State Soccer Association. That's where we're most experts. But as we were building the program and recognizing the needs of the communities that we were serving, it became very evident to us, and it was shared with us many, many times, that there were so many other gaps that existed for these students. And so we wanted to create a whole child, more holistic program that was around soccer, basic nutritional health and wellness, and social emotional learning. As we partnered with originally Coaching Core and now Positive Coaching Alliance around a framework called POSE, persistence, optimism, self-regulation, and empathy, 4 critical life skills for children to know and develop and are easily transferable in a sports context. And so that whole child focus for the program has really been pivotal for us in partnering with the schools, because these are the types of things that they're trying to engage their students in on an everyday basis. We talk about barriers, and a very known big barrier for many children is equipment barriers. And so part of the program is not just this holistic nature, but we also want to provide the equipment that children need to participate in the beautiful game, not just when they're a part of our program. So every single child that participates in the program gets a free soccer ball. That's theirs to keep after the program is complete. So they can play on the weekends, invite their next door neighbor to come play in the backyard rather than shoot hoops or throw a baseball or whatever. They can play soccer. Get a free program t-shirt. They look so wonderful, don't they? They look cute. Every single child gets a free pair of soccer cleats in partnership with Leveling the Playing Field. I don't know if anyone from Leveling the Playing Field is in here right now. There we go. All right, yeah. They're one of our number one supporters, and we're thrilled to partner with them on a daily, weekly basis to get basically thousands of cleats onto the feet of these children over the last couple of years. We have a big celebration at the end of the season, big scrimmage fest. They get medals and everything like that. You know, and there's a lot of discussions around participation medals, right? But let me assure you that for these children, these are not participation medals, they are celebration medals. And when you hear and see children crying, because this is the first medal they've ever received, and when a child tells you, I can't wait to get home to share this with my mom, she's going to be so proud of me. This is so much more than a participation medal. We give them a water bottle. We want to continue to encourage them, and it says drink more water on English and Spanish, because we want to encourage them to continue to drink water and stay hydrated throughout the school year. And teachers tell us that they wear these medals for weeks after the program ends. They come to school with them on a daily basis, so they mean something to these kids. All right.
Me.
Amy.
Okay, so community schools. I don't know if, ooh, can I fix that? Is that better? Okay, community schools. So community schools were started in Maryland in 2019 under the Blueprint for Maryland's Future legislation. So under that, we created community schools for the first time in Maryland. Community schools are national, so you might have them depending on where you're from. But for Maryland, they're fairly new. Go to the next one. So their goal for community schools is really to have those wraparound services to provide support and resources for families. So we do more than sports, but sports is a big one for us. So we do health, mental health, we do sports, we do arts, we do enrichment, field trips, different things. As you can see in the purpose, oh, you go back one, sorry. So this is the history, and it talks about what we do. We're the whole family, so we provide parenting education and parenting resources as well. Focusing on sports, so we do survey our families when a school becomes a community school to ask what they'd like to see and what they're interested in and what we want to model our programming around. And that's where we get into soccer. So these are the pillars of community schools. So integrated student supports, enriched in learning time and opportunities. So again, that after school piece. Active family and community engagement. So again, after school, we're engaging our families. A lot of our families come and watch the kids play soccer after school. They bring their lawn chairs. It's a full family affair. They've got their coolers, their younger kids. I mean, this is the time the families in our community see their children playing soccer. And our collaborative partnerships, which is Nathean and soccer, is one of them. But you can see we've opened food pantries in our community schools, health clinics, mental health support, and a lot of other factors. We do provide the snacks for soccer and all of our after-school programs, as well as to try to keep in partnership with that nutrition piece and that healthy mindset. Go to the next one. Ways to engage schools. So for us, we have state lists, county lists. There's 24 local education agencies. I'm going to try not to use acronyms. If you're familiar with the education world, nothing but acronyms. So stop me if I do. But the state list, so if you go to like the Maryland State Department of Education, there's a state list of all of our community schools in the state, because every local education agency, or LEA, has them now. So that's one way. Once you go into the LEAs, you have to register as a vendor. So the state, if you work with the state, you go to like eMarketplace. If you go with the school system, they're all individual, and you have to register with them to be able to come in to provide really anything, whether it's a show, you know, about art, whether it's soccer, any sport after school. so you have to do that. We do a request for proposals. So our out of school time office does a big county RFP every year, and that encompasses all of our partners. We get those requests, they're scored, and a lot of other steps to those, and then we just select our partners for after school programming. So Let's Play is one of our soccer partners, but because we're such a large district, we have 211 schools. Most of them are elementary schools. So we work with, I think, around 5 partners for soccer and basketball and a number of other sports. And then we sign an MOU. So this talks about, the terms and conditions. You're probably familiar with MOUs, but it outlines memorandum of understanding. So you gotta catch me. You gotta catch me. So that's another one for us. So after you get your request for proposals, you're approved as a vendor, then you get an MOU, and then you're ready to start programming. Now this takes a while. It's not a quick, painless process. This is months and months. So if you have questions, talk to me afterwards. I can walk you through it in a little more detail, but it is a timely process. So you have certain timelines, but then there's a long wait. So, all right, so how are we funded? So we are funded by, right now it's the state. So in Maryland, there's state funding. I know California, all of their schools are now community schools, and so they have billions of dollars invested in community schools through their state. We do receive some local funds and some private funds, and then we do grants. So there's different opportunities depending on how your school system works. We do follow the state timeline, which is July 1 through June 30th. So it's different than the federal timeline. So depending on when you're used to doing RFPs, that's our timeline for Maryland and most other states. I think there are 2 states that don't follow that timeline, whereas the feds are November 1 to October 31st. Okay, and then we tap into existing funding and partnering with businesses. So like leveling the playing field. Not only do they help us with soccer, they also help us with a lot of other equipment when we need that for our teams. Okay, so we do have budget season for school districts. Depending on how familiar you are with them, again, lengthy process. It starts probably in January, February, doesn't get approved. I don't think we're approved yet, and it's mid-May for next year. So we're hoping to get approval by the end of the month. And so it's a long process, and depending what's in that budget is what we have for out of school time. Now, community schools in Maryland get state funded, and the state says this money is only for community schools. You can't spend it on anything else, which allows us to put a little more funding into these community schools that are designated. And I talked about that. Okay, so other funding opportunities. So Maryland has Judy Centers, which are early childhood hubs. They're very similar to a community school, but they're only through kindergarten, so 0 through kindergarten. But they do offer play groups, sports, different things like that. There's Title I schools, which are federal funds. I think everybody has Title I schools, so you probably are familiar with that. So again, that's federal money designated to the local education agencies. The difference is, like, the local education agencies then get to designate those funds. So depending on what the priorities of the LEA are, may or may not fund some after-school programming. Title IV is also federal funding. That's even different than the rest because they have like 3 or 4 topics that have to be aligned to what the feds say. But one of them is it ties into school health. So you can tie in some after-school sports to that. And then collaboration councils and management boards, those are local funds in every county in Maryland. And so that's county, not education. So your county has local education or local management boards and collaboration councils. And they have funds that are designated for after school. So there's a number of ways, depending which state you're in, that you can get funding for wraparound services.
That's a lot of information.
It is.
Resources that are available, and that's one of the reasons why our program has been so successful and why we feel like these collaborations and partnerships with community schools are so important, because it's going to help us build a sustainable model to build into the future. When we started the program, we self-funded everything. the first couple of schools. But we knew that that was not going to be sustainable long term, and so the collaboration with the community schools, as you can see from their overall vision, matches up with our whole child focus for our program, and so the success has honestly been quite overwhelming. We had hoped by year 3, and we're in now year 3, to be in 6 schools with 150 kids. And as you can see, we've far superseded that. And I think John mentioned that we're planning on adding 2 or 3 in the fall. Actually, the plan is to add probably 8 or 10 in this upcoming school year. And so we're thrilled about it. We certainly are very confident that the schools are thrilled about it. And what's really, really important, the reason they're thrilled about it is because of some of the outcomes that we're seeing and that they are seeing in their schools with their students. So we're going to look at a few slides just to kind of share some of those things. One of the biggest ones that they've seen is an increase in parental engagement in their school. As kids come out, as the parents come out to watch their students participate, that gives the community school liaison, the community school manager, whoever that staff member is, that's that community school person there, an opportunity to engage with the parents, which is a real challenge for them in getting those conversation points, those talking points, to engage with their family about what their needs are to help their student be successful. And so we're seeing a massive increase in parental engagement at those schools through the community school liaisons. Ultimately, we created this so that there'll be free and much more equitable access for all kids across the state and across DC to be able to participate. Keep on going. We're thrilled of how many girls are participating in the program. 95% of all of our students are Black and brown students, which is awesome for us. Tying into that, about 75% of our coach mentors are also Black and brown. So that's really important for us, that the children can see themselves when they're looking at the people that are leading them, and being able to impact. And we're seeing, keep on going, because so many girls are involved, empowering girls and increased confidence for them. Schools are telling us this. Schools are telling us that for the very first time, boys and girls are actually like playing with each other at recess, particularly in some of our schools that have high Hispanic populations. The boys and the girls, they kind of have their own little separate worlds, and they don't involve, because the boys are playing sports and the girls don't play the sports. But they're seeing for the first time kids integrating during recess time and playing sports together and engaging. Keep going. This is a big one, right? Schools are telling us that kids are showing up for school. Because part of the program is, if you're not in school, you can't be in the program, right? And so some schools are telling us that up to 75% either maintaining or improving their attendance at school. And at a bare minimum, they're always at school on the day that Let's Play is happening, right? And keeping them in school is certainly part of the challenge, and so we're thrilled that that's been happening. Their social interactions and their inclusive behaviors coming out of COVID, there were so many challenges with social engagement between students, and our Let's Play program is helping to be another tool in the toolbox, or toolkit, so to speak, to help them improve in those engagements. Keep on going. Our partnerships, this is about collaboration. This is not about MSYSA. It's about partnering with as many community organizations as we possibly can. So you can see the list on there. Nike has supported us, Quick Goal, so national organizations, regional organizations, local community groups, after-school programs, of course, school districts, et cetera, et cetera. Positive Coaching Alliance, Team Snap, if they're in the room, have been a really big supporter for us, obviously leveling the playing field, as we mentioned. We want this to be working for the community. Our goal is that we are in the community, for the community, and by the community. This is not about MSYSA. And so this is what people are saying about it, right? It's one of their favorite programs. In some cases, it's the only program. And that's why our work is so critical, because there are so many schools that the only program they're offering right now is our Let's Play program. And so that's really pivotal and important. I think that's the last one. Mm-hmm. All right. You can see our contact information. That will stay up there for a little while. So if you want to send us any emails, that kind of stuff, we'll get into, once John asks some questions, the QR code there will take you to our Let's Play web pages, where you can find out more specifically about the program.
Thank you. That was awesome. First, please, round of applause for what they're doing. And I can speak to how popular this is as well. When I visited the Tacoma Park, Maryland school, what's the elementary school?
Rolling Terrace.
Rolling Terrace. Was the administrators just raving about it, and they want more opportunities. They want even more access to it. I want to talk some about the coaching, because I think that's a critical part of this. Use the language coach mentor. That's very specific. Why use that language?
It's very specific because, as I mentioned there, that they are coaches, role models. We are mentors. We are Let's Play. This is a relational model. That's the primary focus. It's skill-based. In the soccer community, the traditional model is the team, uniform, play, league-based play. We wanted to be very intentional about creating a different model that was outside of the traditional one. This is non-traditional soccer in a non-traditional soccer environment with non-traditional soccer participants. And the skills that are required in the program, very, 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 very beginner level. So we want to engage them on a different place, right? It's not just about the soccer, it's about that heart connection. One of our coaches once said that we're not so much teaching soccer as we're champions for children. And we're champions for children that are wondering, are you going to show up again next week? And so that's what's most important to us, to have a caring adult that will show up for them on a weekly basis and be there for them to support them, and they'll come back again next season too to be there to support, and that we as an organization will be a part of their community. We collaborate with the community, we're engaged with their activities, their after school things, but their school fairs and their back to school nights, et cetera, because we want to continue to build that relationship and that connection. So coach mentor they're much more than just a coach teaching skills. They're engaging with them as a child and as a community.
We all know it can be very challenging to find coaches these days. How do you find them, and what would it mean if you could have even more? Like, how much more could you scale up if you could find more?
Yeah, finding coach mentors has, without question, been the number one bottleneck for the program. We have 8 schools in Montgomery County. There's absolutely no question whatsoever that if we could find enough coach mentors in that concentrated area, we could be in most all of their schools. So whether that's 30 now and whether it's 50 plus moving into the future, we could triple, quadruple, and beyond the number of schools that we could serve if we could find the appropriate number of coach mentors. But how do we find them? So we have 2 full-time Let's Play coordinators currently. We're adding a third right now, specifically just to manage this program because it's so popular. And actually, Darren right over there, he's one of them. And he spends a lot of his time online recruiting. So we use online hiring, recruiting platforms like Indeed.com. We use Indeed.com specifically because they're one of the few platforms that allows us to get a lot of access completely for free. Right? So many other platforms charge you, $200 a month, $400 of this and that, and we're trying to keep everything as low cost as possible. So the overwhelming majority come through those direct online recruitment methods. We, of course, with such a large database of affiliate clubs and leagues, we market to our own people, sending out constant contact emails and that kind of stuff, and that brings in some people. We have coaches within our own communities. We do have a handful of teachers from the schools. Ultimately, in the long term, we would love for there to be more teachers directly involved with the program, but as we've all probably heard and we're aware, teaching is hard work. And at the end of a school day, for a large number of them, the last thing they want to do is spend another hour and a half with the same kids that have been driving them crazy all day. But we do think that that's an important critical piece, right, to engage those teachers that are already involved in that community, already relationally involved with those students. We do also have junior coach mentors, and so we give student service learning hours, and so we're working with like Montgomery County Student Service Learning Department and some volunteer boards, and so we post on those places. We're looking to grow that. There's only a handful of those junior coach mentors right now, but we also think that that's a critical piece of helping to give back to their community and then allowing those students to give back to their own community. Many times we see that even some middle school students that want to give back because they're just recently departed from their elementary school, and so there's a real connection there and they want to come back to actual implementation of the program, and they typically are earning up to $30 an hour, but like I say, with a minimum of 2 hours for each session. The biggest demographic of those coach mentors is college-age students, overwhelmingly. but we certainly do have some people like Darren, who actually was a coach mentor in our Let's Play program before coming on as one of our full-time Let's Play coordinators, who had done his career and now was getting to that retirement stage and wanted to give back to the community. And so we certainly have some of that kind of retiree age that just want to give back. And we have certainly others that they have their career, they're fully involved in what they're doing in real life, but maybe they work remotely, that kind of stuff, and they love what's happening in the program, and so they'll give an afternoon of their time and come out and help us with that.
Amy, let's talk about it from the school perspective. What does the demand look like for this program in Montgomery County?
Yeah, so soccer in Montgomery County is probably the #1 sport that we're asked for. So as I stated, in this program specifically, we have wait lists at our schools, and every school would like it, and that's where we're kind of struggling. But we do, as I mentioned, have other community partners. A lot of it is geographical, so we're a large county, geographically speaking. So depending on where an agency is based, maybe they just want, like, the east part of the county or the west part of the county, because driving our county could take an hour or more. So we're trying to be conscious of that fact and connect schools in their areas to resources in their areas.
So you do have other soccer programs, though, other than Let's Play,
We
that
do.
are part of Montgomery County, right? But my understanding is this is the most popular that the schools want, and why?
This is the one that has the most capacity. Also, wait list, as I mentioned. A lot of our schools that started with Let's Play won't maybe consider other programs because they're so happy with it and because the parents are so happy with it. So because we survey our families to ask them what they want to see consistently. It's not just like a one-time survey. We survey them probably too much. But we do like their feedback, and we want, as a community school, we want the community to give us input. And so we have wait lists. We started at 1 day, then schools wanted 2 days. I think schools would take 4 days if we had that capacity. Really every day they'd want them there. But unfortunately, we can't do that quite yet.
And if I can just add too, one thing that we're very keenly focused on is quality, not quantity. We want this to be the absolute best experience for every child that it possibly can be, because we think they're worth it. And we could come in and we could go into 10 extra schools and give them a half-baked, half-rated program with kids running amok everywhere, and there's not enough supervision and so on and so forth. But we're not prepared to do that because these students deserve much better. And as Amy said, there are some schools, we serve typically up to about 40 kids in a 1 day of programming. If we had a second day, that's another 40 kids that can participate. In some schools, there's up to 250 children that have signed up and want to be a part of the program. And the schools have to do a really difficult job to manage the expectations of those families and trying to get them in. So from season to season, they'll often change the participants so that everybody gets an equitable opportunity to participate. But for us, it's definitely quality over quantity, so that those children get the best experience that they can possibly have.
Nathan, you touched on this a little bit in the presentation, but of course this isn't free, right? So how much does it operate how much does it cost to operate Let's Play at each school?
Yeah, so there's a really broad spectrum because of the different unique situations of each school district and each individual school, and the number of kids that we serve and the different ages that we serve. So some schools may have 40 students of all 5th grade. Some may have 30 students and it's 1st and 2nd graders. Some may have 1 day, some may have 2 days, and a lot of different variables. There may be transportation that's involved and different things like that. But the range over the course of the entire year, so this is for a whole year of programming, ultimately is between approximately 5,000 all the way up to like 15,000 for the year.
Per school?
Per school.
Right.
And that's to provide all of the things. We could show up to the school with a couple of soccer balls and run soccer programming for kids at a far lower cost than that, for sure. But that's not the model that the schools necessarily want. It's not the whole child-focused experience that we're trying to provide, and it's certainly not this idea of reducing as many barriers as possible for these students. And so much of the cost comes from providing all the cleats and those kinds of things, and free soccer balls for all the participants, and the shirts that they get, and water bottles, and all those kinds of things. And the coach mentors, of course, the fact that we pay them. If it was all volunteer-based, we could reduce that cost. So the partnership with community schools has been really, really, really critical to the potential sustainability moving forward, because we, of course, would not be able to sustain that kind of a pricing model. But the funds that the schools have allows us then for the school to provide this for their students, so the students don't have to pay a single penny. When we first started the program, the very first season, we had a nominal like $10 or $15 charge that was optional. So whoever could pay the $10 or $15, because we felt like this whole idea of like just having them to have some skin in the game was important. But ultimately, we've erred now to the side of if we can make this free for everybody, so that nobody has to worry about that, or even the embarrassment of saying that they need the scholarship on the registration form, those kinds of things, then we're happy to do that.
And I will say from the community school side, our staff is still there after school. So part of being a community school staff person is you stay for this piece and you work after school hours. So there's always somebody representing the school district on site. We also, it's not only the funds for the kids that participate, but we pay for the buses to get them home to eliminate that barrier. We have somebody that stays until every child is picked up, right, with that staff piece. We do the healthy snacks through our food and nutrition office. We work with our out-of-school time office as well as our community schools office to make sure that everyone has the bus that needs a bus. So it's not just an effort with community schools. There's a lot of other programming happening after school. So we all collaborate to maybe share buses or to reduce that cost of just one program paying for all the buses. So there's a lot of little pieces that go into making the program happen, as Nathean mentioned, but from the school side as well.
We are, if I can say, we are dead set on not being a service provider. That is not the goal. And I think that's one of the things that resonates and that can be clearly seen. We don't want to be that. We want to be a partner with the school and with the school district. We want to work in tandem with them, side by side, to bring the best possible experience for their students. Anyone, in essence, can provide a service. It takes a whole lot more to be a partner and a collaborator. But that's where the true success, I believe, is going to happen long term.
Amy, for someone who's in this room who's hearing this, like, this is amazing. Like, let's play. Like, how do I do this now in my community? What's your biggest piece of advice how to get started, particularly partnering with schools in someone else's their community?
Yeah, so all of our schools should have a partnership office. In Maryland, everybody has a community schools office. And then there's a number of, so it's really getting the right person, I'll say. There's a lot, Maryland for, being the size of the state, we see the same people over and over. So if I go to a state meeting, we're the same people in every meeting. I feel like and so I think just once you meet someone, asking them do you know somebody in this county that you could connect me to? Because having that handoff where you know somebody that knows somebody is much easier. But we did have, and we've reached out to people as we've grown soccer and other programs. We've reached out to companies to be like, can you, are you interested in applying for our proposal? Are you interested in having after-school programs? How can we work with you to make this happen? Because as the community schools grow and as the need grows, we need more partners, right? And that's not a Montgomery County thing, that's a statewide thing. So everyone is receiving some type of funding, state or federal, and if they have the capacity to take it on, they do want to take it on. So it's finding that right person and then really building that relationship. I know that we text, we email. I do the same with probably everybody that's a partner with me. We stay on top of things. I also would go after school to the programming and stop by and make sure everything was running well. So it's really being hands-on from the school side, but also having those partnerships where I can text and say, oh, the bus is running late, or we're held up in a traffic jam for our buses, we need 10 more minutes. And having that like, can you come to back to school night? Can you show up? Can we have some scholarships for summer, things like that. But really, it's finding that person in the district that has taken on this work, which is really hard. Our school district has like 25,000 employees. And so connecting to those one or two people is really the challenge in big systems.
Nathean, same question for you. What's your biggest piece of advice if someone wants to get started with this, partner with schools in their community? What would you tell them?
So a couple of things I would say. One, if you can't get to the district, start with one school. Mm-hmm. That's technically how it happened for us. We started at a school called Jackson Road Elementary in Silver Spring, Maryland, and it was such a raging success. Within a couple of days, they had a huge waiting list of like 60 kids that couldn't get into the program. That eventually filtered up to Amy at the district level and said, wow, we've heard about this amazing program at Jackson Road. We want to bring this to all of our schools in Montgomery County. That's how that conversation started for us. But it started with one school and being an awesome and incredible success in one school. So if you can't connect with the district person because it seems like there's too many barriers or too many pieces of red tape, or where do I find that information? Start with one school, get started there, and they'll filter that information up to the right people for sure. It really is about finding a champion that, and of course I'm preaching to the choir here, right? Because you are the champions. You are the people that are invested in this work and in this space, that are willing to go the extra mile, that are willing to step up and say that these children are important enough for me to put in the extra work to fight through the red tape, to fight through the barriers that exist at systemic levels. You know, Montgomery County is amazing as far as a partner for us with regards to the way they administer their things. We work with 7 different school districts currently in Maryland, and I can truly say that is not the case for everybody. And so it is a real challenge, and there are times when we feel like saying, enough's enough. We're going to have to move on to something else. But these children don't deserve to be shortchanged because an administrator somewhere can't get their act together. And so be willing to put in the extra work to determine that these children are important enough for you to do everything in your power to create an opportunity for them. That's probably the biggest piece, because there will be barriers that will make you be like, oh, this is too hard. We're just going to have to go back to people that can pay.
I also want you to speak about the resources that MSYSA has that correct me if I'm wrong, you want to open this up and share it with everyone, your model basically, and the resources that you have.
Yeah, so I understand probably not everybody in the room is a soccer organization, but one of the things that we are truly committed to is growing the game of soccer and transforming lives. We happen to have our jurisdiction of Maryland and DC, but we want to see this happen all across the country. And so every opportunity we get, we'll share with all of the 54 state associations or 53 other state associations that exist about how they can create this. But our promise to each one of you also is that, one, you have complete and utter access to me as a person, right? And in my role, I will do whatever I can to support you in what you want to do in your community. But then also, and if you are a soccer person, everything that we've created for Let's Play, whatever it is, whether it's forms and flyers and curriculums and everything like that, we will give to anybody in this room completely for free. We're not asking for anything. We don't want any credit for it. You don't need to put our name on it or anything like that. We will give it to you if that is the barrier for you creating opportunities like this, because you don't have the time to create all the documentation and to do all the other things. All you need to do is connect with me afterwards, send me an email, say that you were at this session and that you'd love to set up a meeting with me and get the access to the resources, and I will share all of those things with you completely free of charge, so that you can just do whatever you need to do with it. And if it inspires you in some way, great. If you look at it all and say, nah, that's fine too.
That's amazing. I've asked a lot of questions. I want to let you all ask questions and open it up for whatever questions you have. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Yep, right here.
Question. First of all, I'd like to commend you on your effort here. I'm out of Buffalo, New York, and we're currently an organization that's working with community schools, charter schools, and public high schools in our area. But our question was, you had 35% was girls and girls of color. What is the other 65%?
No, so that sentence may have been a little bit misleading. So 35% of our program are girls. Honestly, the 95% of our participation generally being black and brown, that applies to the girls too. So it's not 35% of the girls are black and brown, 95% of them are black and brown, but 35% of the whole program are girls.
Also, part 2 is, can a outside the state be a vendor in this state?
Yes, you can be a vendor. You just have to go on, if you want to be a vendor for the state, like something,
Or in the county?
yeah, yep. You just need to go on to, there's procurement pages on each local education agency. So if you want to do Montgomery County, you just have to find their business page or their procurement page. The same for every local education agency.
Yeah. And that model is slightly different with every school district. You know, Darren does a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Each school district that we work with has a different set of requirements and processes that we have to go through, but it's all part of the deal.
Yeah, right here.
I'm actually also from Buffalo, New York. My question is more systematic. We do programming with the schools as well, but registration is always interesting. Are we, as the Champion Project, hosting the registration portal? Is the school district hosting it? What have you found to be the best model for registration and then communication with families?
Yeah, so with community schools have extra staff. Like as I mentioned, they stay after. So they're responsible for the registration process. We don't collect money from the students for any of our programming. And so that, of course, makes it easier because you know, it's just a form from the parents. But then they make the roster, and then we send things to Nathean's office for their coaches.
So your coaches would then communicate with the families if need be?
So
No.
we
Okay.
do, yeah. So we do the buses and the forms, right? We have like photo and video consent forms, and you know all those things, you know, where they emergency contacts, things like that. So with community schools in Maryland, there also has to be at this school an on-site nurse, even for after-school programming. So we have staff in the building that are still there, a nurse still there, and our community school staff are still there. And so they handle making sure everybody gets on the bus, texting parents if they're not picking up their kids, if they're not taking the bus. So they do all the kind of on-the-ground coordination. They also tend to know the families, right, having been in the school every day with them. And then, so registration, they have timelines for registration. They work with Let's Play or the other partners. I keep pointing back there because we have another partner in the back. And so they handle the registration, signing the families up. They create the roster for the coaches, and then we send that ahead of time to Let's Play or whatever office we're working with. So when the coaches come in, they know who's supposed to be there. And a lot of times I think we take attendance, or do you also?
We do take attendance,
Yeah,
yeah.
we take attendance, but does my community school
It's a
staff?
combination,
Okay.
partnership, collaboration.
So that's the piece that kind of varies, but the rest of it, we've worked out over the years and over the seasons, very like clear, your job, my job, our job, through, yeah.
Yeah, and because this is a collaboration, so before each season, just like we do with our partners like Leveling the Playing Field, we have a meeting with all of the community school liaisons for the schools that we're serving to say, hey, these were some of the challenges, these are some of the roadblocks from the previous season, this is what we're doing differently this season, what are other things and what are other ways we can work together to make sure this is most successful this season, and then immediately following every season, we meet again to say, hey, what did we actually experience over the past 6, 8, 10 weeks? And how can we make sure that our systems are better for next season to improve everything?
Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, how are you guys evaluating success? I mean, I heard what you just said, but are there other measurement tools that you're using? And are they driven by you, Nathean, or by the school district? How are you
So I'll let Amy speak to their stuff.
Our district created a data system for community schools. So anything funded by community schools gets tracked. So all the programming, after school programming gets tracked. So we're able to see those kind of attendance pieces that were mentioned earlier. So we can tell you how many times this kid participated in soccer or this kid participated in basketball. Or we also, like I said, we survey our families constantly. And not just like, did you like it? Yes, great. Like we try for deeper metrics than that. We want to know if it made an impact, right? Did that make an impact on attendance, or was there some other variable? Like having those one-on-one conversations even with families, because we want that information, because that's going to drive our outcomes for the next year and the next year.
Yeah, and from our perspective, from a program perspective, we survey and do evaluations with all of our coach mentors around program success and their engagement within the program. We do surveys for all of the parents and families about how they viewed and participated in the program. I will say this, that we're in the process now of even talking about how we can improve those things, because measuring our outcomes is an area that we need to improve for sure. But the things that we are doing is the coach mentor surveys, the parent and family surveys, the meetings with the CSLs and with the school leaders, and the meetings with some of our more significant partners to really evaluate every area of the program. And are we meeting some of the metrics that we came into this with, and some of the new things that, you know, when we started the program, we had no idea that parental engagement was going to improve at the schools. that's something that the schools are sharing with us is happening. And so we're looking at ways, and if anybody has any expert information about this, we're happy to receive it as well, on better ways for us to measure our outcomes and see those engagements.
Any other questions? Yep.
I have some questions on the coaches.
Yes.
I'm curious about your retention of coaches since you're paying for them. You know, what metrics are you looking at, and what's your retention rate? And then also in terms of paying, are they 1099 employees, W-2 employees? Like, how are you managing that aspect of team?
Good question. So they are W-2 employees. They're paid on a kind of a bi-weekly period during the course of the season. The first part of your question again? Retention, yes. So last fall we hired approximately 65 coach mentors across the different programs. This spring we have about 80 coach mentors because we've added 1 or 2 schools. Out of that 80 and out of that original 65 from the fall, we had about 35 that returned for this spring. So within the year, we're looking at like 50%, and we want that number to even go up. Looking at from year to year, we're not quite sure what that number is. It's probably more like 30% retention, not quite as high as 50, but we're also doing summer programming. I won't say for the very first time, we did a summer program a couple of years ago just for 1 school, but we've expanded that. We're doing 4 schools this summer, all in 1 county, and we certainly expect to see a good transition now from the spring to the summer to the fall because they're staying engaged. Because at the end of the day, once they get separated from the program, it's hard to keep them engaged and then bring them back again. So the more that we can keep them engaged, the better success we think we'll have in keeping some of the same coach mentors coming back.
Gotcha. I have one quick follow-up question. You mentioned that you give some the choice of whether or not they want to, I guess, donate as in-kind or volunteer. I was curious how many, like percent-wise, choose that option versus.
Oh, it's a small percentage. Yeah, it's a small percentage. So maybe out of 80, you might have 2.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so it's
They like getting paid. I mean, but it's important to them as well. And I talk to them, some of the younger people, they were high school age or college age or just a little bit after college. Some of them said, look, like, I don't know that I would do it. I've got to come here. I've got to get my time if I wasn't getting some kind of money in return. It's important.
Yeah.
A question right here?
Just quickly describe what your summer programming looks like.
So it looks very much like our fall and spring programming. So we're working in conjunction with the schools and their summer school program. So their summer school program in Montgomery County anyway typically lasts like 4 weeks. So it's a truncated program, but our social emotional learning component is a 4-week piece which kind of gets repeated. And so that kind of ties in with those 4 weeks and is easy. It's a slightly extended time period because summer school typically, whereas regular school might get out at like 3:15, summer school is often out at 1:30, and so we're still having to fill that time to get to at least the end of regular school when parents might normally be expecting to come and get their kids. So we are changing the program a little bit in that it's a little bit more summer campy, right? And so there's the soccer component and all the other components that are involved, but then there's also going to be other fun activities, summer camp type games and activities for the kids to participate in.
Thanks for all you do. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? No? Well, listen, this was terrific. Really appreciate it. Thank you for what you all are doing, I mean, for kids. And I can tell you, I visited one of these elementary schools in Tacoma Park, Maryland, and the kids just loved it. I mean, they're just playing and having fun. And the coach mentors are teaching not just soccer, but we didn't talk a lot about it, but the curriculum that is part of this. They're talking about nutrition. They're talking about, having like words of the day or themes of the day, like around perseverance or, confidence or self-esteem and those types of things. And it's really tremendous what you're all doing. So please give them a round of applause. Thank you.